We are back with an amazing session with a super famous franchisor. His name is Pete Baldine, but let me tell you, International Franchise Association in Las Vegas, in a hotel room with Pete Baldine. This is not a joke. It sounds like a punchline or something. So let's talk about Moran Family of Brands. Up next.
One of my friends asked me last night, when are you going to retire? I said, why would I retire? This is a blast.
I feel like I was led in the inner circle when you gave me this answer. I was leaning in, listening to this.
Administrations change every 4 years. Franchising's been around for a long time, okay? And franchising is so resilient, and we share so much together as a community.
President Pete Baldine.
Lance, my friend, good
Finally.
to see you.
Finally, I just saw you at a conference last week.
That's right. That's right.
So welcome to IFA.
It's that time of year, you know.
Yeah. So welcome to IFA. Do you come to the IFA every year?
I come every year. I've been here over 20 times.
Yeah, and 25 years in franchising, Pete? Something like that? Or with Moran Family of
25
Brands?
years with Moran Family of Brands. I'm not going to tell you how many years on franchising.
You don't have to do that. But you know what? Now that we're talking about age, because we were comparing, you're over 30 years, almost 40 years in franchising.
Yeah.
I'm over 30 years in franchising. We were already talking about the legacy or the longevity of the franchisees with your brands, Mr. Transmission, Milex, and Turbo Tint. So you have someone 83 years old that is just exiting the system now.
Today.
System. 83.
We've been working with him for 3 or 4 years, and he didn't want to sell.
And so because it's his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He finally decided that he was ready, and we actually did the resale today.
Well, congrats.
And Rice was down in Pensacola.
Congrats to him. So let's start at the end and work backwards. Exit strategy. You start talking about exit strategy when prospective franchisees come to Discovery Day. I love that.
I do. I always talk about exit strategies at Discovery Day. We talk about support. We talk about how we get them in. We talk about how they how they get supported and what they can do with the business during the life cycle of the franchise. And then we talk about exit strategy, because it's important that they get in, that they get a return on their investment, that they make a good living, and then that they get their equity out of the business when it's time for them to exit.
And you have plenty of owners exiting 3 to 4 times cash flow.
Sure.
I mean, it's a nice, healthy number. And a lot of people don't even realize, because on the open market, a typical independent business with nothing in place, not attached to a mothership, so to speak, you might get 1.5 times. It depends.
If that, Lance, a lot of times they're just selling the assets.
Yeah. Obviously, if it's not a good business, you have not much to sell. Mm-hmm. So your average, not you, but in any of Moran Family of Brands, the average tenure of a franchisee could be 15, 20 years.
Well, listen, so not so much with Turbo Tint, because that's a newer brand, okay? But with Mr. Transmission and Milex, and also our multi-state brand, we have 33, this is an unbelievable number, okay? 33% of our franchisees have been in for 20 years or more, okay? 16% have been in for 30 years or more.
Wow.
Okay.
Amazing.
So it's a real testament to our system that these franchisees have renewed their agreements a second and third time. Okay.
So I have to understand this. So they keep renewing their franchise agreements like a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And what happens now as you have new franchise owners coming in? They're seeing this obviously as a big positive.
Right.
But there's some young bucks coming in now, and there's a bunch of retirees in there. Almost.
Yeah. So we've been very active in the resales the last few years, and I have to be honest with you. When we looked at the age of the system, okay, I decided a long time ago we have to deal with this. We have to have a good exit strategy for these franchisees, or we'll lose stores. sometimes a lot of franchisees, they get to the end of their agreement and they just decide they're done.
They don't want the headache of selling, and they don't know how to sell.
Right.
Right.
So it's very strategic in that I keep this expiration report and I review it at the beginning of each year, and I look at the next couple of years of who's going to expire, and then I call them, say, what's the game plan? Do you want to renew? If they're 60 years old and they want to renew, great. If they're 75, they probably don't want to renew.
They're 83, you got to fight them.
Yeah. And I'll tell them that, well, then list it with us, and we'll find a buyer. We'll help you value it. We'll find a buyer.
Pete, you're one of those guys that loves franchising. I could just
I love it.
I could just tell. Why do you love franchising so much?
I love the engagement with the franchisees. I love helping these people make more money in their business. I had somebody ask me last night, when are you going to retire? Because I've been doing this for so long. And by the way, it's over 40 years that I've been in. And one of my friends asked me last night, when are you going to retire? And I said, why would I retire? This is a blast. I have so much fun doing this. I did an interview a few weeks ago, and the guy said to me, "You must be really passionate about automotive. You've been in automotive for so long." And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not passionate about automotive.
I know you. You're passionate about people.
I'm passionate about my franchisees. I'm passionate about these franchisees running a successful business and then being able to exit with their equity, that they worked so hard to build."
And that's
what I love.
And that's what every prospective franchisee is listening to right now. Mm-hmm. They hear your passion. They understand your passion. Like, sign me up. So how do you pick a franchise brand today? If you don't know much, most people, and let me rephrase that, most people looking at franchises are very smart people. They're leaving a corporate job. They might have gotten paid really well. And in the old days, it was 50 years old. There was a guy looking at a franchise when he turned about 50. Nowadays, I have more women in their 30s, young guys in their late 20s. It's amazing what's going on over here. So franchising is getting younger. But what advice would you give, seeing all that you've seen now in almost 40 years?
Well, the advice I would give is obviously you got to do your due diligence. And I think the most important thing is, the business model's got to be right for you, okay? But you also have to have that connection with the people. You have to know that franchise company is going to be there to have your back, that they're going to be there to support you, that they're going to care about you, and you need to have that connection before you sign that agreement.
And is it validation that you really know when you talk to other franchise owners?
The most important thing to me is validation. A great validator for us is exactly the stats that I gave you earlier. There aren't a lot of franchise companies that have that kind of longevity with their franchisees. And when you see that they're signing a second and third agreement, that gives you all the validation you need, and we're fortunate to have some great franchisees that are really engaged with us, and our validation is very strong. And that's what allows us to award new franchises.
So give us a quick snapshot of Mr. Transmission. Talk about that, and then go to Milex and go to Turbo.
Yeah. So it's interesting story. Mr. Transmission was acquired by the Moran family in 1990, and it was bought out of bankruptcy. The original company in Nashville had gone bankrupt, and Dennis Moran bought it, and it's a great model. There's only 7% of the people at any given time that need transmission repair. Okay, but it's a high average ticket model, low customer count. Okay, but high average ticket, and when you do it right, you can make it's a good money maker. It's a good return on investment. What we did that's very unique is that we also had Milex, which was another acquisition that we did, and that's in the general repair business. Okay, as we saw several years ago, the changes in the cars, primarily based on everything being computer controlled. We're going back, 10, 15, 20 years, okay? And now you've got 6, 7, 8 onboard computers in these cars, and they're very complex. In the transmission business, you used to get in the car when somebody would come in and tell you that their transmission wasn't shifting right. You'd get in the car, you drive it around the block a few times, and that was your diagnosis. You come back and say, yeah, it's not shifting.
Works just fine.
Yeah, or not. It's not shifting between second and third. It's got to come out, right? You can't do that anymore because with the complexity of these cars, there could be so many different things that could cause that car to not shift between second and third, using that example.
Yeah.
And they may not have anything to do with the internals of the transmission. It might be an emissions control problem. It might be an electrical short. It might be a bad solenoid. It could be a lot of different things, right? Mm-hmm. So diagnostics in the automotive business became critically important. These guys anymore are really not mechanics, they're technicians.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So what we did strategically was we had Mr. Transmission and we had Milex Complete Auto Care, which is a general automotive repair business. And we decided to put those together and co-brand them under the same roof. And the beauty of that is that we can use the same footprint. Okay, we don't need a bigger building.
Mm-hmm.
We figured out how to do it with the same footprint. So now you've got the same fixed overhead as you would have with one franchise, but you have 2 revenue streams to leverage against that fixed overhead.
Sounds like Taco Bell and Pizza Hut.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. And we had to teach. There was a lot of resistance in the beginning when we did that. The transmission guys were saying, "I'm not going to take a car off that lift to do a $400 brake job when it's a $3,000 transmission job." But we taught them how to do bay management, how to handle the workflow and the throughput.
It's like the bartender saying, "I don't want to serve a steak. I don't want to serve food."
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the owner, your check average goes way up.
So what happened was revenues went way up with that co-branded model. As it started to gain traction, the revenues went up and the profitability of the franchisees went up. And it's been very successful for us. And it really, there's a couple of key things with it. It gives you a one-stop shop, okay? And there aren't many places where the driving public can go and get everything done to their car. You have to bounce around to different.
Yeah.
And what we've been able to take advantage of with that is because we are a one-stop shop and we can do everything to their car, we get that frequency of use. That frequency of use allows us to build relationships and that trust factor. And then when anything goes wrong with their car, they're coming back to us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So when you get franchisees that really understand the relationship factor and they're people, they're people oriented, they really enjoy that model because of that advantage that it gives you.
So when you think of your top franchisees, the top 5
Mm-hmm.
best franchise owners, what are the qualities that they have that you want everybody to have?
I'll give you a couple key ones, and I'm gonna boil it down to one key thing.
This isn't you're not gonna have to kill me after you tell me.
No.
Okay, good.
Because I tell everybody the same thing. Obviously, they need to be people-oriented, okay? They need to be leaders, team builders. They need to be sales-oriented because a big part of the business could be going out and acquiring fleet accounts and things, and those kind of business opportunities. And they really need to be, committed to building those relationships and building that trust factor. Because let's face it, in automotive, everybody's skeptical. You get told by the shop that you have this very expensive repair, okay? And the first thing everybody thinks of is, am I getting ripped off?
Right.
Okay? But when we
getting screwed over here.
When we execute this model and have built these relationships, they don't think that anymore, okay? Because they trust us.
Okay.
So those things are important, okay? But if I take the top 25% of the system and the bottom 25% of the system, there's one key thing that is different between those two groups, okay? Your top performing franchisees have a strong sense of personal accountability. The bottom 25% blame everyone but themselves. They will blame the customers. They'll blame the market. They'll blame their location. They never look in the mirror. Okay, so that strong sense of personal accountability is the real difference maker between these guys.
I feel like I was led in the inner circle when you gave me this answer. I was leaning in, listening to this. I love that. Talk about Turbo Tint. So that's a newer company.
Turbo Tint is a newer company. We collaborated with one of our franchisees who had some ideas about what he wanted to do with his our old model Altamir.
I remember
an Altamir franchisee, and the business was changing a lot. And he said, "I've got some ideas that I really want to execute." I flew down to Oklahoma City, met with him, met with his entire family, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And we kind of laid out all of his ideas. And he actually made me sign an NDA before I went down there.
And he's a Milex Mr. Transmission franchise.
No, he's a Turbo Tint.
Turbo Tint.
He was Altamir. He's now a Turbo Tint franchise.
Got it.
So we collaborated. He shared his ideas, and then our team got to work on taking the ideas and building it into a model. We started beta testing it in 2019. And the beta test was going really well. Originally, we had planned to just take his ideas and make improvements to the Altamir system. What happened was the beta test went so well, and it was so successful that we said, "Wow, we got something here. Let's just create a whole new model." So that's what we did. And then the pandemic hit. And everybody was putting the brakes on everything. People were cutting their dev departments, and we know the story, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about it, and we said, we're too far into this. We just need to keep our foot on the gas, and we did. And we finished out the beta test, and at the very end of 2020, we launched it as a new model. And it's been going great. The interesting thing was one of the key aspects of the model is that there's a lot of enterprise stuff that goes in. We built a website, and the customers can go on the website. They can get educated to what our packages are and select what service they want.
Great.
They can schedule it at their convenience, and they can pay for it online. Well, in April of 2020, this franchisee was our beta test franchisee was in Oklahoma. And in April of 2020, the governor of Oklahoma shut down all non-essential businesses.
Yeah.
And this one we knew we had to keep our foot on the gas, because what happened was with customers ordering online, my franchisee was texting me on Sunday afternoons with screenshots of the orders that he was getting. And he was going like, "We're not even open. We just got a $5,000 order, and we're not." Well, we ended up with the store being closed the entire month of April. They exceeded 2019 sales by $10,000 for the month, and they weren't even open a single day. That's when we said, "Yeah, we got to run with this."
So now, post-COVID, what's the status, and how are things going, and how many states have you made it to?
Things are going well. We've got 18 open. We've got 6 that will open in the next 45 days, and we've got 30 something in the pipeline to get open.
And if you have a Mr. Transmission and Milex combo,
Mm-hmm.
is there a version where Turbo Tint is also added?
There's not, because they're so different, and Mr. Transmission and Milex are around grease and oil.
Yeah.
Right.
Turbo Tint is sterile and clean.
Right. Turbo Tint has got to be a controlled environment, because you can't have the contaminants,
Yeah.
Getting in there. And so because of that, because it's standalone, it's really a unique experience, because the whole thing, it's not about window tint, it's about the customer experience.
Yeah.
They come in, They, like I said, they can select their product online, schedule it, pay for it, and then come in, and they've got a 1 hour guarantee in the installation, and they've got this beautiful lobby that they are sitting in with a fireplace and free Starbucks coffee and big plush chairs, and they're there for an hour.
Yeah,
and they're
awesome.
So it's really, we really built a customer experience.
So Pete, as long as you've been in the industry, there's so many people that look at franchises that sometimes they thumb their nose at the franchise model, thinking, I could do it myself. I don't need those people. I don't need to pay a franchise fee. I don't need to pay a royalty.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, what I say to that is that, we're very careful about who we select as franchisees, who we award a franchise to. Okay. And that's a critical point in our whole process. Okay. And we're looking for people that understand and respect the collaboration. Okay. That understand that we provide a whole lot of resources to them that they don't have themselves. We preach to them right from Discovery Day that, you may have been successful in the corporate world, okay, but you haven't owned a business before. And as a small business owner with 4 or 5 employees, you have to wear 10 different hats all the time, okay? Yeah. And maybe you're good at 5 of those hats, and not as good at the other 5. And that's where we come in. That's where you can pick up the phone any day at any time and call, whatever department you
call
need
for help
and get the help that you need, And so we're very close to our franchisees. We know the franchisees. We know their spouses. We know their kids. We know what's going on in their lives, and that's why Moran Family of Brands is kind of funny, because people talk about that and they go, Moran Family of Brands. Well, we've got franchisees that have all their second, third generation franchisees that are in our system, where we've got brothers that are all individual franchisees. We've got their kids that are franchisees. And in our, support, ranks, we've got, Ben is my son-in-law, Barb's got 2 of her kids involved and a niece involved in the business. So it truly is a family experience. We all work together. I've known Amanda since she was 9 years old.
That's especially how work is no longer work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to the advances of vehicles, you mentioned earlier, the Tesla or electric vehicle craze that sort of definitely started. We don't know when it's going to pick up speed or where it's going to pick up speed. What does that mean for you? Are you able to diagnose EV related stuff and help those vehicles as well?
Yeah, we're already doing it.
Good.
We're already doing it. And as a matter of fact, interesting point, on the Turbo Tint side of the business, the number 1 vehicle that we tint are Teslas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because there's so much glass, right, that they get their new Tesla delivered and they come right to our
They're baking in the summer in that aquarium.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. But on the repair side, one of our strengths is we have a fantastic technical department, and I'm going to mention my guy's name because he deserves the plug. He's fantastic. Tim Rodifer was a franchisee of ours for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
He sold his business 4 years ago and wasn't sure what he was going to do. And I said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to come to work for me and run the technical department. And we always had a technical department, but Tim is just a rock star.
Yeah, I think you're holding all these people hostage. I think that's what's going on. He sells his business and then joins you anyway.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
And Tim does all the R&D, and he researches, everything for, the gas-powered vehicles and the electric vehicles, and the franchisees love him. He's always accessible to them. He turns out all kinds of tremendous information, for the franchisees with videos and bulletins and everything. And it's just a great support service.
So let's talk a little bit about money. Everybody watching these podcasts of mine are always thinking, well, how much money can I make? So what are you disclosing in the item 19s for them about revenues, and we're talking about exits, and that's amazing because a lot of brands scared to get involved in the generational wealth and transfers and all these things. But obviously you're encouraging that. So talk about item 19.
Yeah, so our item 19 is very strong. We break it down into three different groups of top performers, middle performers, and the
the ones that don't take personal accountability.
The ones that don't take personal accountability, right? But we have our top performing group averages about $1.4 million in revenue. We had, I think this year, we had 24 franchisees that exceeded $1 million in revenue, which is
nice.
Pretty strong in our business. The average store does just shy of 800,000. Okay, and the ROI is really strong. If they're running the business the way they should, and controlling their cost of goods and controlling their labor, they can do really well.
And it's a needed business. Obviously, everybody knows it's needed business. And I saw a stat not that long ago on how much longer people are holding on to their vehicles.
Lance, that's a key right there. The average age of the vehicles today in the United States is 12.8 years. If you go back about 15 years ago, it was only 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I just did a competitive analysis for a market where we've just brought on a new franchisee that's going to do 3 units. And one of the things that looked great about that market was I researched how the age of the vehicles in that market specifically, and the vehicles were 2 years older than the national average.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
People, the cost of new vehicles is so high right now. And people have to end up with a 5-6 year note with $800 a month, and they don't like it, so they're repairing the ones they have.
Car insurance as well. Yeah. So that's great, and obviously everybody's looking at ROI, and it's really, really important. And obviously in your validation, you're going to hear from franchisees that have been in the system a long time,
right?
And I would imagine you have quite a few owners that own multiple locations.
We actually don't. The business, the economics of our business are really strong, and a well-run single unit operator can really make good money.
Yeah. Well,
so
that says it all.
we do have some multi-unit operators, but mostly we're owner operators.
Yeah.
The franchisee's not working on cars. They're running the business. They're growing the business. They're out in the community, being the face of the business in the community. Yeah.
So Pete, we were talking about ROI and only needing one location. So basically, add sales folks, hit fleet accounts. Really expand your footprint, keep yourself packed.
Right.
But on EVs, a lot of people are still talking about EVs and what is the future of the auto repair shop with EVs coming.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well, I think what we're going to see, Lance, is that certainly EVs are coming, okay, and EVs are gaining popularity, right? And they have a very specific purpose, right? Like I could drive an EV. I've got an hour commute each way, and it would make sense for me to use an EV as a commuting vehicle. Okay, but I also, have a horse training business. Okay, and we go do horse shows. And using an EV truck to drive 6 hours down to Kentucky Horse Park isn't going to fly. It'll take me 2 days.
No Cybertruck for you?
No Cybertruck for me. No, but they're coming and they'll have their place. But I think that because the infrastructure is not there and probably won't be there for a long time. And when I say the infrastructure, the charging stations, the materials for the batteries, even on the back end, the disposal of the batteries, okay? All those things are critical to the expansion of the EV market, okay? And so because of that, and because that infrastructure probably won't be there for, at least as quickly as the politicians talk about it, you're still going to see gas-powered vehicles, and you see the manufacturers right now backing off of some of these EV quotas already. And So you're still going to see your gas-powered vehicles, but with EVs, there are different problems that you have with those vehicles, and they're still going to need service. They're still going to need repairs. There's so many sensors on these EV vehicles, and those sensors go bad. And when they go bad, it's a problem, you know, and we're already replacing sensors on EV vehicles today.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that.
Yeah.
Pete, tell us about the actual investment. We didn't discuss that yet. A lot of people think that automotive places are really expensive, big investments, but you're not. So.
It's really not. It's surprising, Lance, how low the investment is actually. You know, people think you got to have these lifts that lift cars up, and they got to be expensive, and all these different things. And it's really our model is really a $300,000 to $350,000 investment, so it's a lot lower than people expect it to be.
Pete, you've been a fabulous guest, of course, an old friend of mine. Final thoughts, final words of wisdom for the aspiring entrepreneurs out there.
You know, my words of wisdom would be that the franchising model is just an exciting model, okay, and it's such a great place to be for people who want to own their own business, controlling your own destiny, and utilizing this great model that we've built in the U.S. I mean, I've been involved in it for over 40 years, and it's just a fantastic place to be. I had at the Let's Grow conference last week, somebody asked a final question on a panel that I was on, and asked about a political question about what we thought would happen with the new administration. And all
new
that.
Administration in 2025.
And
is the world going to end?
Yeah. And I said, look, administrations change every 4 years. Franchising's been around for a long time, okay? And franchising is so resilient, and we share so much together as a community, okay? And so it's up to us to work on the things that we can control and not worry about the things that we can't control, you know? And franchising is going to be around a lot longer than any administration.
Yeah.
You know? So it's up to us as franchise leaders to make sure that we're doing the right thing and that we're focused on helping our franchisees grow their businesses.
Simple formula. Help your franchisees.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for being here, Pete. You're awesome.
My pleasure.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.